Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a totally normal podcast about films. Atom Path. It's been a fucking hot minute, hasn't it? I am your host, Claire, and I am joined by my co-host,
Leon.
Welcome to Season 2.
Hello, everybody. What a cliffhanger.
Yeah, will the Ring Girl get us or not? We've just been busy. We've just been really busy the last few months.
Yeah, life happened.
But now we're back. We're cooler than ever. And what other Season 2 tropes should we have? Do you grow a beard?
I didn't grow a beard, but we had our time skip. We had our training arcs, I think.
Yeah.
Do you have a new talent? Did you acquire anything new?
I have weird mango milk. That's not really a talent, but I will be drinking it this podcast. So you're going to get not only a review of The Two Towers, but also a review of Taiwan mango milk.
Oh, nice. And
I don't know whether it's like Taiwanese or it's Taiwan branded. I don't know. I can't read Japanese. Or is it Chinese? I don't know anymore. I got it from a Japanese shop.
Were you in a relationship last season? I don't know.
Towards the tail end, yes.
Oh. So that happened.
Yeah. And I moved.
See? We have a different
The Prime
location.
Minister changed twice.
And
Obviously
it's still not the
The
lettuce.
lack of Atom Path. Still not the lettuce. Obviously, due to the lack of Atom Path, Boris Johnson was forced to resign.
He missed his favorite
Oh, and the Queen
episodes.
died.
Oh, a lot happened since we've been gone.
A lot has happened, yikes. So yeah, we are back. We're going to try monthly uploads, and yeah. So we are reviewing The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It's the sequel to Fellowship of the Ring, based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And yeah, we're going to do the format a little differently this time. We're still going to have a bit of a spoiler a spoiler-free section, but instead of just recapping the plot, we're just going to talk.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah. We'll still give a light recap, but we're not going to spend 10 minutes being and then this happened.
And then this happened.
Yeah. So before we get to spoilers territory, Leon, what do you think of this movie?
I gotta say, from the three films, it's my least favorite. Because it has this, it's in the middle of everything, so it doesn't wrap up, but it doesn't, start everything. But that doesn't mean it's a bad film. I like the movie, but from the three, it's my least favorite.
Yeah, and I think I 100% agree. I haven't watched Return of the King yet, but I definitely preferred Fellowship. I think The Two Towers is a really difficult film to adapt. I was reading into this. They were originally just going to do Fellowship and Return of the King.
Yeah.
And, take elements of Two Towers into both of them.
Yeah.
The thing about the Two Towers book is it doesn't really start or end. It just picks up and then leaves off.
Yeah.
So, for example, a lot of the climax of Fellowship actually happens in the start of the Two Towers book. But they put it into Fellowship just to give, a better closing. Because Lord of the Rings was supposed to be one book. Which doesn't really work for movies. Obviously, as part of a trilogy, you kind of expect, you can't watch the second one without watching the first, but, audiences expect a solid beginning, middle, and end to every movie.
Yeah. But I think that's why this one, The Lord of the Rings, is the perfect trilogy, because it is set out as a trilogy.
Yeah.
You kind of have to watch it. You have to watch all three films to have the full experience.
Yeah, I think this is something where trilogy is say the Star Wars sequel trilogy really fails at, is because the Star Wars sequel trilogy, they didn't go into that trilogy with a with a okay, that they didn't look at it as one big story. They looked at it as 3 separate stories.
Isn't that the same with the sequel trilogy? At least it feels.
You know, that's a sequel, and that was mentioning the sequel trilogy. It's like it's that very much that like they didn't have a plan. While at least the prequel trilogy had the benefit of we all know where this is ending, you know. And the original trilogy, I know in A New Hope he didn't have a plan, but when they were making Empire, that's when he was like, okay, by this point in the series, I want to be at this, you know.
Yeah, I think in A New Hope, he wasn't even sure that Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Yeah, in fact, I believe the original idea was to not even do the Death Star in A New Hope. They were going to like leave the Death Star until the final one.
Yeah. Oh, and please feel free to fact check because that's just dangerous.
Yeah. I can't believe that George Lucas was going to make an entire Star Wars film arguing about freeing Hong Kong. Oh my god. But yeah, we're going to leave spoiler territory now.
Yeah.
So, we both recommend this movie. It's Lord of the Rings. Just watch the fucking trilogy.
Yeah, do it.
You could get a box set for like 20 quid. Like, just watch them. But, yeah.
Fans always recommend to watch the extended cut, but I think Peter Jackson himself says that he prefers the cinematic cut.
I have to say, as a new fan watching the extended editions, I really feel like you should just be watching the cinematic cuts, and then if you really, really like it, watch the extended edition.
Yeah, because I think that's what many people say, that the extended cut is for the fans. Like, it gives more... It's for the fans that also watch all these making-of stuff, all the deleted scenes, stuff like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because it's not like the Snyder Cut, where it's like an entirely different movie. It's just an extra hour to an already long film.
Yeah.
So, the Two Towers plot picks up pretty much... Well, it picks up exactly where Fellowship left off.
I think
Frodo and Samwise...
I think you have a little flashback to the fight with the Balrog.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. You get the extra context behind... Basically, how did Gandalf get himself out of this scenario? Do you know the trailer spoils that Gandalf lives?
Well...
Like, I know it's an obvious thing from the books, but like, you've always got to keep in mind that someone's not read the books.
Yeah.
But yeah, it begins with Gandalf like surviving the fight with the Balrog, and
well, even
fun fact about this:
the release poster spoils it because Gandalf is on it.
Oh god, it does, doesn't it? I'll put that poster on the actual video. But yeah, basically, in the Lego game, when Gandalf sacrifices himself, you then get like a split screen section where it's like, the Fellowship escaping as Gandalf is fighting the Balrog. I'm not saying you should play the game through Lego Lord of the Rings, but experience this through the Lego game, but
Just a little fun fact, I played the Lego Star Wars games before I watched the movies.
Really?
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like I might have done that, but I was a kid. I was just like, what I suppose, we were just kids, so like parents buy us the game, like, ooh, Star Wars.
So yeah, all my Star Wars knowledge originates from the Lego games, which is the definite version how you experience Star Wars.
I mean, it's got Anakin Skywalker absolutely not hesitating to kill Dooku.
Yeah.
We're getting very sidetracked. Basically, the film follows two parties, which then splits into three parties. So we got Samwise and Frodo as they continue on their quest to Mordor, and they run into Gollum.
Yeah.
Who I've got a lot to say about Gollum. I really feel for Gollum in this movie.
Yeah, the second movie is like the big Gollum movie. It's his moment to shine.
Yeah. You've got a fucking gay throuple of Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli trying to rescue a Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
And then when they kind of fight, Merry and Pippin sort of rescue themselves. We'll get to that. They basically go on an adventure with fucking resurrected Gandalf, and I have many jokes to make about Gandalf the White.
Okay.
And then you've got Merry and Pippin getting really fucking high in the woods.
Yeah. Good times.
Just having a massive tree adventure.
Good times, good fun.
Everyone else gets like beaten up and traumatized, and Merry and Pippin are just absolutely
have the time of their life.
Chilling. So yeah, which storyline do you want to tackle first? Because while the film does kind of splice them together, in the book, I believe it was like one half of the book was just dedicated to one of the groups.
Yeah, I think that's how the book did it. Like they did one half of the book for one group, and then they did a time skip back. And in the movie, it's cut parallelly. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that flows better for it. I get why they did it for the book, but for a movie, that flows a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, who are we starting with?
The triple.
No, the fucking Pretty Boy Squad.
The Pretty Boy Squad, yeah. Let's call them that.
My favourite joke I saw about this film is Legolas only has like 10 lines of dialogue, but is the absolute most beautiful thing in this entire movie. Like, oh my god, like, just Legolas. He is hardly in this film, and every scene he's in, he is awesome.
I know you texted me when he said his famous line.
I'm taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Yeah.
Right. This is the meme one. I know, like, you know, like, Gondor calls for raid, and, like, if I take one more step, this will be the furthest I've ever been from home. This film had so many meme lines.
Yeah.
This had potatoes. This had they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. This had the Mad King.
And the most obvious villain of all time, Wormtongue. How is it?
Oh my god, fucking Wormtongue, yeah.
Like, he looks like a villain, he's called like a villain, and nobody notices it.
Yeah, so basically, they're off on their adventure to rescue Merry and Pippin, which doesn't really last all that long. Like, they basically find out that they're in the custody of tree giants, and they're like, alright, bye lads. We'll get to Merry and Pippin's magical adventure soon, but they also discover that Gandalf has been resurrected as Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the White joins the group.
Yeah. Kinda?
Well, he joins and then he leaves.
Yeah, but like they go confront this, like the Mad King, who's like he's like be corrupted by Saruman to basically prevent his armies from fighting. He doesn't even notice that his son's dead.
Yeah.
And I fucking love this confrontation between Gandalf and him, because it's like, you know, it's like, your powers won't work here, Grey Wizard. It's like, haha, bitch. Takes off his clothes, reveal his better robe. It's like, oh, a clean robe, my only weakness.
I farmed. I did some level farming with the Balrog.
I got the rare robe.
Yeah.
Right, okay, I need to give you guys a little bit of context to this. I went to a shop the other day, so I got this mango milk, and I'm about to try it.
It's a live try. Live review of mango milk. While she's opening it, I will entertain you with...
Oh, that's weird!
Okay.
So, entertain.
No. Do you
No,
really?
no, I'm insistent. Please.
Nobody will ever know what I would have done. Now,
I'm going to take a second sip while Leon entertains you.
okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I did it. I did this weird thing with my tongue where I folded it. And it was really amazing. Sadly, we don't.
But this is an audio-based podcast.
Oh shit! But it was really amazing.
It tastes like a drinkable yogurt.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad. So yeah, but anyway, back to the film. It's basically like that. So like they're helping. It's been a month since I watched this film. We've been really busy, and they go on this magical adventure with like the Rohan, and then they fight. And like Aragorn's dead for a bit, but not really.
Yeah, he dies, but he lives, which
Yeah.
is quite common in these movies, it seems.
Yeah, unless you're Boromir.
Yeah, Boromir's
Fucking
dead.
rip
Boromir's
Boromir.
dead.
Shout out to the fight scene where Legolas fucking surfs down a staircase on a shield, firing arrows at enemies.
Oh yeah. For me, it's quite difficult to differentiate between the movies because I mostly watch them back to back when I watch them. So I'm a little bit. I hold myself
Get up
back.
the Wikipedia synopsis.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I know there was something like the original version of the film was going to have like. Because this film was, we mentioned this a bit earlier, this film was an absolute nightmare to film. Not because it's like, production issues, but it's like, how do you adapt The Two Towers? It's a very hard book to adapt.
Yeah.
And they were contemplating like throwing characters in this big fight scene, which weren't going to be in this big fight scene. That they shouldn't have been, but...
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how they pull it off that they have such a big cast and still every character has a certain amount of depth to him or her. Even though it's mostly hims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is very much a guy squad, but like, even like the women elves feel important.
Yeah, the female characters they do have are mostly strong female characters, but I think Lord of the Rings is also on the list of films where no females talk to each other.
Ah, the Bechdel test.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, the Battle of Helm's Deep. I actually think it's quite a good fight.
Yeah.
So then we've got. I feel like Merry and Pippin are very connected to this plot line. So Merry and Pippin are on their way to Isengard with the orcs, and we also get meat's back on the menu, boys. But basically, they survive an encounter with like the Riders of Rohan, and enter like this big horrible forest where they meet Treebeard, who you were telling me earlier about some interesting behind the scenes stuff about how cool Treebeard is.
Yeah, Treebeard is really cool because they had a giant puppet of him for when the hobbits interacted with him. But in all the other scenes, it says that it took like, wait, how many?
24 to 48 hours?
Yeah,
render,
24 to 48 hours per frame to render.
Which is a nightmare, especially the scene where the other Treebeards rock up.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I had more than one computer.
Oh god, imagine doing that on a classic film. No wonder they only tried to like animate the film before this, because But yeah, they're basically. I feel like their plot's the least big of them, just because it seems like a bit of like a C plot. But they're kind of having an adventure, which leads to them confronting, battling in Isengard and absolutely wrecking shit up. And their plot ends with them getting weed. And I'm not even joking, they just get weed.
They have a good time. So
They
yeah,
start
they are
this movie
trapping
in the
Saruman
worst
in his tower.
position.
What?
Yeah. They start this film in the worst position and end up in the best position. Okay, maybe Gandalf was on a pretty bad position because he was fighting a demon, but you know.
Well, he's sent everybody away so he can gain the XP himself.
Yeah, so he can get all the raid loot.
Yeah.
From Ragnaros. But yeah, oh my god, it is kind of like molten core thinking about it. And then finally we have Frodo and Sam, who get absolutely tortured.
They meet up with Gollum. Have a
Poor
good
Gollum.
time with Gollum. And Gollum is really sweet, and you kind of understand that he feels betrayed at some moment in the movie.
Yeah, Gollum, they really play like the fact that he's got like two identities, and there is a very good person in Gollum who is even, and you towards the late part of the film, you're even thinking like he's gonna break out of this. He's actually gonna, enter normality. He's gonna be okay.
Yeah, you mean Smeagol.
Smeagol, yeah, and then he gets betrayed by he doesn't get betrayed, but basically
He feels betrayed.
he feels betrayed because of a bit of a misunderstanding involving Boromir's brother, who has a massive daddy issues.
Eromir.
And that's what ultimately makes him decide to kill them.
Yeah.
And we get Frodo slowly losing his stability with the ring. It's really starting to get to him. And Sam, who is the one guy who's just like, oh my god, can we just move on?
So yeah, and later they get to the Black Gate of Mordor.
Yes. With the cliffhanger of they're going to kill. That Gollum is going to kill them with her, who I think is the giant spider, if I'm not mistaken, who I think was in the book. But
Yeah, it is
Yes.
the giant spider.
yes. So yeah, that is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. We summed up a nearly 4-hour movie in about 10 minutes.
Well, the theatrical cut is only 3 hours, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, it is still quite just a brutal movie. It's a very we mentioned this a lot, but it's impressive they got this one to work, because this one really shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, why shouldn't it work, Claire? Explain
Well,
yourself.
I have earlier. It was in the books really awkward.
Okay, yeah. I think it was the hardest decision is how you have the pacing.
Yeah, I would not have blamed them if they just decided to have shoved it into Fellowship and Return of the King. I don't think that would have worked, but it definitely is the easier solution.
Yeah, but it's hard because you don't have really this rising tension and then a conclusion and then kind of falling tension.
I think it's definitely a clever move to put the conclusion to Shelob.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a bit of an irony in the fact that they were contemplating making The Lord of the Rings 3 books into 2 films, and then they ended up making The Hobbit 1 book into 3 films, and it really shows.
We are not here to talk about The Hobbit.
But we are talking about hobbits.
We are talking about hobbits, but not about the Hobbit.
Yeah, Bilbo doesn't even show up in this movie. Where's Bilbo Baggins?
Chilling.
He's just vibing with the elves, like, yep.
That's it.
This is life. I did everything I could have done. I said, you haven't done anything. Haven't I? But yes.
So what are your highlights of this movie? Or what do you think went particularly well?
I think just, as always, like, the film is stunning.
Yeah, like, every scene you see feels really cinematic. Like, it feels like it was made for the cinema.
You could screenshot it and frame it, and it would look good. I think one of the things I think just this film does quite well is, like, well, obviously, like, the CGI has aged,
but it still looks great.
Into suspension of disbelief. Yeah,
Gollum's
aged, but Gollum still looks fine.
It was in 2002, I think, that it was released, and it still looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Considering, like, there are CGI films released after that looks worse.
Yeah, like, I think Spy Kids was released later.
Oh my god.
But I like the first two Spy Kids.
The Thing. You know, that's fucking, like, Thing prequel. We've got, but, like, honestly, yeah, I know I've mentioned this, I'm harping on about this, but I think just the fact that they took a book that should never have really been adapted to a film just because of its really awkward pacing and its role as a middle part, and actually turned it into a pretty cohesive and good movie with a pretty cohesive start and end point. I wouldn't really say there's a middle point because there's just, like, so many plot lines happening, but
yeah, but they pull it really well off because you are able to follow each plot line, and it's clearly structured, like, it's not confusing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people say if you don't understand the story of a movie, you're too stupid. But I would kind of argue, okay, maybe that could happen because I am pretty stupid, but I think
same.
A really good filmmaker can make a complicated story easy to follow and understand.
Yeah, there are certain plots like Twin Peaks which I think you could really describe as brilliant, I have no idea what's happening. But at the same time, there are definitely, like, I watched The Exorcist 2 the other night. I have no idea what happened in that movie. I was following it pretty intensely. It's just a dumb movie.
Yeah.
But this movie has a very hard to follow plot, which is pretty easy to follow.
Yeah.
They do it well, and I think they do it. I think part of why they do it well is because of how they decided to, instead of have half the film be about one group and half the film be about another, jump between them.
I think that was the right decision, yeah.
Because otherwise they'd risk making it feel like two films. And I'm sure you can get, like, a fan cut of the film which, like, restores how it was in the book. But, like, for the general, there's always that thing of, you've got to keep in mind the general audience of these kind of films. Like, you know, I know we like to be, like, you know, film critics, like, oh yes, all films don't need to cater for the general audience, but they kind of do.
Books are books and films are films for a reason. Like, they are different kinds of media. I don't think that a good adaptation has to do a one-on-one.
Yeah. Most books, if adapted to films, would either be like 10 films or would just be kind of bad.
Because the structure of books is different. Many books don't have this 3-act structure. with rising tension, then the tension gets resolved, and then it's lowering again. It's more like there are a little bit many highlights over the movie, over the book.
Yes, and there's a lot of films as well. Well, sorry, a lot of books as well that like uses different writing techniques. Dracula's a really good example because Dracula is a book full of diary entries, letters, and stuff, which would not work as a movie. Dracula was thought for a time to be possibly impossible to adapt.
Yeah, I think the best.
And then they adapted it really quickly.
The best examples of, or the best way to make a good film or a good book or a good comic, whatever, is to use the special advantages you have with the kind of media you're working with. Like in movies, you can do this old trope of show don't tell. Like you are able to show people stuff, or you can give them audio clues or stuff like that you can't do in books. Or in comics you can work with the layout.
Yes. I feel like a good example here would be, let's take horror.
Yeah.
A horror movie knows what to do. It can use the volume, it can use flickers of of scary things, horrifying imagery, a lot of not showing and letting the mind fill in the blanks. Yes, The Exorcist is a great example of this. Because a lot of things that film does that makes it scary, that other medium can't do.
Yeah.
Books have the great advantage of your mind paints the picture.
Yeah, or comics or manga. I'm thinking of Junji Ito.
I was thinking Ito, yeah.
Yeah, he uses the page flip. You know, when there's the building tension and then you flip the page and then you have a full page of a really horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Uzumaki does it quite well because Uzumaki is a story about the horror of like how curiosity could kill the cat.
Yeah.
And like obsession with something. And there's a point where a lot of people who read Uzumaki have where they're basically like, oh no, I'm curious about what's happening on the next page.
Yes.
Whilst games have the unique advantage of you're actually experiencing the horror, and a good horror game knows how to make you feel vulnerable. I think there's a lot that can be said about a horror movie having like a zombie apocalypse where the character only has 2 bullets but there are 3 zombies, compared to a horror game where there are 3 zombies and you realise you only have 2 bullets. It's a very different scenario.
Yeah, and I played a horror game lately that did a really good job at it. They gave you a choice, like you're a kid that's getting bullied, and they want you to eat. Is maggot the right word?
Yes.
They want you to eat a maggot, and you have these 2 decisions you can make, like refuse to eat it and eat it. But the horrible part about this is that you don't have the decision, because no matter how hard you try to say I don't want to eat it, you can't.
You have to.
You have to. And that's the horrible part. Later in the game, the kid learns how to stand up for itself, and it's kind of gives because you play in the memories of the kid sometimes, you can refuse it later. But at that moment, it's I like that really well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing with the adaptation is like you turn something from one thing to the other. They take Lord of the Rings. If you were to play a Lord of the Rings a video game, you want that kind of action and adventure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You want to feel like Legolas and Aragorn and Gandalf and Gimli. Whilst the movie, you don't want to feel like them. You want to just be part of the adventure. Immerse yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the books is really just like you know, like you want to create that image yourself. You've got your own. You want to paint it in your head. I don't think that's ever been like a comic adaptation, but I imagine that would have a very similar appeal to the movie, where it's like immersing yourself in a world that's already been made for you.
Yeah.
The Hobbit's the Hobbit was the first film where I had my, oh, I understand the book is usually better than the film.
For me, it was a German adaptation of a German book, but let's don't talk about that because I think nobody will get that reference.
You really just don't like Nosferatu. Like you're keeping it secret all this time. You actually hate the film.
No.
You're a really big fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's a good book. What can I say?
It is a good book. I've exposed you just to keep exposed my secret hatred of children. What more is there to say about The Two Towers? It's the weird middle part.
It's a good film. It's the weird middle path, but as I said, I watched them back to back, so it's fitting that it's the middle path, and it does what it should do.
Lord of the Rings is such a bizarre trilogy, because we were talking about earlier about how it's like the perfect trilogy. It's like it also has the weird advantage where it is just one film.
Yeah, it was planned as a trilogy. I think the whole idea how the movies should look, where it was planned from the beginning to the end, and I think they all did shoot it quite densely.
Yeah. It was back-to-back filming.
Yeah.
If you compare this to, say, another trilogy, like, say... I really hate to bring this series up, but I'm going to bring this series up because it's a good comparison. Harry Potter. Each film is sort of their own thing until we get to Deathly Hallows, when it's like it's a part 1, part 2, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, there's narrative hooks, and like, you need to watch them all to kind of understand it, but you could watch Chamber of Secrets and kind of get what's going on, you know? You watch The Two Towers for Fellowship, you have no clue.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? Who is this guy? Why is he wearing white now? Why is Sean Bean dead?
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew the podcast was going to be a bit shorter because we weren't going to do our 30 minutes, and this is everything that happens.
I think that's not a bad thing.
Film. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to have a shorter podcast sometimes.
I feel like the Return of the King one's going to be a bit bigger, just because I feel like we're also going to have our closing thoughts on Lord of the Rings, you know?
Yeah, I think that could be the case.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, overall, how are you rating this movie out of 10?
As a standalone movie, I would rate it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like 7 or 8.
But as part of the trilogy, I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a very weird film to rate because it's like, how do you rate it separately?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 7, 8, or 9 is a very fair rating.
Yeah.
And
again, if you disagree, feel free to disagree.
Yeah.
Tastes are
subjective. One of the great things, honestly, about film podcasts, in my opinion, is just like when the hosts are like, hosts or the audience just don't agree. Like when it's like, I think this film's amazing. I think this film's dog shit. Let's discuss.
Yeah. What is your hot take? Let's end this podcast with our hot takes on.
I need to. Okay, we penultimate this podcast with it because I'm going to set up the next podcast.
Okay.
What's my hot take on what?
Your hot take on movies in general.
Oh.
Like a movie that everybody loves or everybody hates, but you like it. For example, my hot take would be, I don't like Gone Girl.
I haven't even seen Gone Girl.
I know it's a good movie, but it wasn't for me.
Right. Ooh, what? See, I've got a few. I've got a few films that people love that I hate. Ooh, tricky. I was gonna say one, but that's not really a hot take. I think that's actually a pretty common take about Zack Snyder's take on superheroes. I think Home Alone's really overrated.
Okay, I think that counts as a hot take.
I think I know, like, it's such a sweet movie, and like the slapstick is incredible. But when you really look past those two things, it's just a film about child neglect.
Yeah.
It happens twice.
That's the best part about it.
With Donald Trump. Welcome to the Trump cast. My favorite movie is The Wolf of Wall Street. My cut. Where everyone gets rich.
Maybe we should end the podcast here before bad memories about Donald Trump reemerge in my brain.
Next time, we will be reviewing the Trump movie. No, next time we're gonna, it's February. It'll be the anniversary of Nosferatu. We're gonna watch the remake of Nosferatu the Vampire.
Hooray!
Just thought this would be a fun thing to maybe do yearly until we run out of Nosferatu things. Then what? Who knows? But yeah, I have been Claire.
I'm still Leon, and I won't stop this joke.
And however way you've been experiencing this, I imagine in the future you guys just plug it into your brains. In which case, why are you watching a podcast? Just plug 2 towers into your brain and watch it that way. But we will see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Or listening.
Or tasting. Bye.
Until next time, bye.